spilt it everywhere. Ooh, spilt it everywhere.
What'd you get? What are you spilling?
I have mints here because they'll stop me from yawning throughout the entire episode.
Mm.
It's
Well,
terrible. Terrible. Welcome, everyone, to Spirit Cafe Sessions podcast with just Nikki
Kim,
and
Kim still Kim.
Kim still.
I will be.
She switches.
Yeah,
She switches.
whatever.
This is our 47th or 48th episode.
47?
47? Is it 47? 40, we're going with 47. We might be wrong and it might be 48. That happened last week.
We're
So
getting close.
we're getting close to 50, which is going to be a big episode, but we
47.
haven't really. It is 47. Okay. Yeah. See, woohoo, 47th episode. First of all, huge thank you to everybody who subscribed
Yes.
and is continuing to subscribe. We are almost at 300 subscribers. That's crazy because it's been about a month of me and Kim really putting up shorts and doing the two new, I guess, side shorts that we're doing, Kim's insights and my stories. And you guys have been so supportive and commenting. I love it. I love the commenting. Okay. A special shout out to Becky because she comments on almost every single one.
Becca.
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 Becca. So Becca Ann.
If we're saying your name, if she's saying your name right, you got to clarify these things.
That's true. That's true. Anyway, so huge thank you because our goal is to have our subscriber. We don't have an actual goal subscriber number. We just want people to keep subscribing. It's not like we want to stop at 1,000.
We want
wanna
at least
go-
an M at the end of the number.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There we go. Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. So thank you, everyone. Like, thank you for all the sharing of all the videos, for all the questions. Like, we appreciate it so much. We've got some exciting new shorts to go up this week. We're putting podcast shorts up. There was one that, like, absolutely, like, trended overnight, and it was a really funny one where Kim almost, I think, fell out of her chair or something.
Was it when
So
my
go back
chair
and watch that one.
dumped?
I don't know, but that was the short, and then we're just laughing a lot, so it was pretty good.
For a while there was between
That's a
my
good one.
microphone and my chair. Like I was. And
So we're gonna be throwing more of that.
I do want to say with the contest, if you have subscribed to the YouTube channel, you are already entered. So we've asked you to share and do those other things, but that would be for additional entries. Is that correct, Nikki?
Yes, because what our generator does for anybody listening, and I'm actually going to make a video about this, and I'm going to post it on the TikTok and on the YouTube for people. If you've subscribed to our YouTube already, you are automatically entered. You're automatically entered, okay? Our generator does that. It's and then it'll just pick a random username. So if you're listening to this and you want to win that free medium reading with Kim, it's virtual, by the way. Got to throw that out there. A virtual reading, and
Unless you want to fly me to your house
let-
if you live somewhere good.
yeah, if you live in Alaska,
No,
she might not go.
California or
She might not
something.
go.
Yes, buy me a flight and
Yeah.
I will come. Give
Yeah,
you
she
your
will.
complimentary reading, and you'll have to set me up for a few days.
Yeah, no. Hey, you'll love it. She's an amazing house guest.
Yeah.
She needs a vacation, hint, hint, people.
I do.
I do. Okay, tarot card of the week, the Knight of Swords. I actually really like this card because this is telling me we are still in a really weird period. We're still in July, so energies are crazy and all over the place with this retrograde. But this is telling me that sometime this week, we might as a collective start feeling very energetic and very impulsive towards something that we might just want to spring into action with, whether it's an idea, whether it's with a person, whether it's with a goal that we have. But the only thing that we have to watch out for is the Knight of Swords is very impulsive, very fast-paced energy, but he also can burn out. Okay? Gas out. So if you are speeding through with something that's on your to-do list or a relationship or whatever in your life, watch yourself that you don't gas out and you don't burn yourself out. Okay? But if you've got an idea, run with it because this is an excellent, excellent card to get for that kind of energy.
Send money.
And money. Yeah.
Send.
Okay.
Just subliminal.
Subliminal.
Send Kim and Nikki money. Just kidding.
No, subscribe.
Subscribe and
So
send
yeah,
money.
that's and send money. And send. Okay, guys, this episode. I'm actually pretty excited for this episode. Kim, you want to tell them what it is?
Well, we are going to talk about spiritual things that we may or may not no longer believe. So,
Yeah.
things that we've outgrown, and we're going to just talk about them.
Yeah, because it happens. When you start getting spiritual, we all start out the same way. Meditating is a big one. Meditating, prayer is a big one. But as we learn and as we teach ourselves and as we evolve, we will, certain things will fall away. Whether that's actual techniques that we used to do, methods, whether that's actual objects that we used to use in our spirituality, things fall away because they no longer resonate. And that's also a very good thing. So if there's something that you used to do and you feel bad because you don't feel that gumption to do it, first of all, you're on the right path. If you actually are on the spiritual journey and you feel less connected to something that you used to feel in the past that connected you to something higher, that's great, because what's that doing is it's telling you and it's showing you that you're evolving and you no longer need that. You're moving towards something else that's going to help you connect, which is amazing. So always see it as a great sign. Always see it as a great sign.
Absolutely. And this is all part of when I go on about when you're on your spiritual journey. You don't expect that you're going to be able to do everything that you see other people do instantly or on a weekend course or whatever. You got to remember that this is, and I'll say it and say it again. This is like a baby, right? Like you're like a baby. You're coming, you're brand new. Everything could be overwhelming, and all these things coming to you, trying to sort out what you like, you don't like, getting ready to maybe get up on on your knees and then crawl and, you're not just going to be done. So make sure you give yourself the grace and the permission to go as slow as or fast as feels comfortable to you. If you feel like something is like really sits and resonates and you're feeling like you're moving on to something else, yeah, go for it. But don't be beating yourself up because you're not here when you
Yeah.
started here and you haven't really gone through all the steps that you need to be here. Because if you get here without going through this, you're not going to appreciate it. In my opinion, you're not going to appreciate it. You're not going to have the build up to it. And sometimes it's like you might be missing little nuances. So it's kind of like the Jenga, right? So you kind of miss a piece or
Right.
whatever, and then all of a sudden it's going to fall down because, not necessarily that's what's going to happen, but you just got to know that the little pieces you go through are all part of your journey. And that's what this is. It's a journey. It's not a destination. Did you just go down?
I did, because I was sitting too high and it was bothering me.
Okay.
Sorry.
Just because my chair does that on its own. So that's why I was like,
No, I didn't. I have control of my chair.
so do I until my my heel hits it. But this is definitely a journey. And life has to be a journey. Don't think that you need to be perfect at anything, because if you are, you should. There's no reason to be here. All right, and enjoy it, and give yourself permission to mess up and make mistakes and stumble and do great leaps. Give yourself the permission for all of it.
I think that's a good point. That's a very good point. And there's some things you guys will come across as you are, diving further in your spirituality, that you're going to think that you need to do because everybody else is doing it or everybody talks great about it or whatever, but it doesn't resonate. Then don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah, don't do it. You know what? There's a lot of things that people tell me that I should do. I'm very big on meditation. It took me 6 months to meditate because I'm a Gemini moon. So anyone that knows astrology and now knows me, when they find out that I'm a Gemini moon, they know exactly why I am the way that I am. So my brain doesn't shut off ever. It doesn't shut off ever. So meditating was such a challenge for me. And when I was learning to meditate, everybody told me I had to do guided meditations. That works the best for this reason, for this reason. It didn't work for me. And if I hear a voice when I'm trying to meditate that's not my own, or a spirit guide, it's going to throw me off. And to this day, 9 years later, I cannot do guided meditation. It didn't work for me. So you're going to come across things that don't work for you. And just because they're the norm and just because everybody swears by them does not mean it's going to work for you. And it's okay that it doesn't. Because I'm going to tell you something. I learned to meditate. It did take me a long time, but I learned to meditate without anything, any guided anything. And I have heard so many people telling me that they'll fall asleep to guided meditations and they'll have nightmares or they won't have a very good sleep. And it's not everyone. Some guided meditations are amazing and sometimes it doesn't happen. But for a lot of people, it does. Okay. It's the same thing with subliminals. Some people can't listen to subliminals because they do trigger something subconsciously in you as you sleep. So with that in mind, just because someone's telling you you've got to do it does not mean that you should. They had to do it. It worked for them. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you. I know people who started the spiritual journey who can't meditate, but are doing other things that help them, right? That's just an example. So don't force something if it doesn't feel right to you. Don't force it.
So I'll ask you, what's one belief that you have outgrown?
Oh, I have several. Several. Biggest one, the biggest one is I do not believe in fate and destiny. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as fate and destiny. Astrology and knowing your birth chart and knowing thing like aspects and conjunctions, that is going to help you immensely in your life to understand why certain things happen and to understand why certain things will potentially be happening to you. But at the end of the day, you are in control of your fate and your destiny every single time in every single lifetime. That is probably the biggest thing that I went into spirituality believing, everything was set in stone or, fate and destiny and none of it. And I think it's really dangerous for people to believe that in some retrospects, because there are people out there that really twist the fate and destiny thing and it can get so dangerous. I have had so many clients come from spiritual gurus or mentors that have told them something is their destiny and this thing is very harmful, and I can clearly see that it's harmful, but it's their destiny. It's their destiny to help this, for example, this abusive person in their life. It's their destiny to stay with them and work through them as they're being abusive. No. No, that's just one example. So one of the things I have outgrown is that I do not believe in fate and destiny. I don't. I also don't believe in that you've got one soulmate. I think that's foolish, and that was definitely a man-made construct. That was not anything but that. We definitely have more than one soulmate. Definitely. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think
You?
things I've outgrown.
Thoughts, ideas,
I think
methods?
one of them is because someone can perform, like someone can do a mediumship reading or whatever
Right.
for me,
Right.
doesn't mean that they are good or they know more than me or that, I should just
That's a
totally
good
buy
one.
into what they have to say. Because I used to be like,
That's a
oh
good
my
one.
gosh, they must know everything. And, like and I think a lot of people fall into this, especially with this, especially when they start, when they're like, oh yeah, I got it with this and then they said this. And yeah, there's very good readers. There's, but as Nikki said, there's a lot of things that with, things happen, right? There's free will. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you can think that, oh, something's going to happen, but like say you're supposed to be with somebody else or whatever. Um, there's still free will. So it's not because someone says it's going to happen, doesn't mean it will happen, because things can change.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean that necessarily that the reading was wrong. It's just something has changed, right? And like, so don't just throw all your eggs in the basket because somebody has a shingle over their office saying I'm a medium, psychic or whatever, and they tell you stuff, and don't be like, okay, wow, now I got to quit my job and I won the lottery.
Yep.
You don't put that, like, look,
Oh,
it's been so
sorry.
long.
Oh,
Oh,
we jinxed it.
now I'm all messed up.
Okay, now I can laugh because you're okay.
What is
So you don't.
today? Um,
I don't know. I can control my chair.
I was just said like, oh, it's been a long time since I've had to do this. My goodness. All right.
All
Anywho,
right.
so just know that you don't have to. Nobody knows. Nobody will be able to tell you absolutely because you need to believe absolutely. And and if there's other people involved, everybody needs to be in a position. These are just potential outcomes. So don't be, somebody says, oh, looks like you're going to come into a lot of money in June. Don't be quitting your job in May
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just getting a house, a brand new house and a car secured because you're going to win the money in June. So I feel a lot of people believe these things so wholeheartedly. And I'm not saying that what happens isn't true. I'm just saying don't jeopardize your future, or your mental health or your physical health because somebody has said something. Get
I like that.
your real proof, and do your work, and just know it's more of a guideline. And if you trust and it'll work out how it's supposed to work out.
I like
And
that.
just because
It's true.
something doesn't happen and it doesn't work out how you wanted it to work out doesn't mean that it isn't working out perfect for you. And it doesn't mean you're a failure because it didn't work out the way you were told or that you wanted. Because there are conversations that you were not a party to. That's what I say.
That's true. I believe in. Next question. One belief that became stronger for you.
Me, that spirit is with me.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yep. Spirit is here with me. Spirit Spirit has my back as long as I am willing to listen, and pay attention. I do find myself falling every once in a while. Like you kind of fall into it, but I'm human. And being human, you can be like, oh yeah, like this never works out or whatever. But you know what? It's not gonna because that's where I go. Right. And it's to have that trust and that faith, just like I've told the story about power of manifestation and me sitting here going, oh, I wish I could paint my office purple. Oh, I wish I could get
Yeah.
new carpet downstairs. I wish I could get new windows
Don't
and
say I
sidings.
wished.
And oh, I want and I wanted all those stuff. And, to think like,
And what happened?
well, there was a
Just tell the story
fire.
quickly.
There was a fire and I got it all. So, uh,
That's right.
those were very powerful moments where I went, oh, wait a minute. They say be careful what you wish for.
It's true.
I think most people think like,
Facts.
okay, I want $1 million. Like it's just you put it out there, and when I did that, I had no way of how it was going to work out or whatever. I was just like,
Right.
this is what I'm going to have, right? And
Right.
it happened. In probably the best case scenario. Uh, and same with when I've gone through, like recently, I went through some pretty heavy stuff, and I just was like, this is going to work out to the best possible resolution, and it did, and better.
Okay.
You know,
I like that. That's a good answer. It's true.
what belief came stronger for you?
Um, mm, that there is no coincidences. There are no coincidences in life. That spirit, energy, God, angels, whatever you guys believe, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. They know what they're sending your way, and they know how they're moving things around once you tell them what you want. There's no coincidences. I don't. I like zero coincidences. That is something that I learned very strongly actually over the last 2 years. I've always had in my back of mind there's no coincidences, but it isn't until the last 2 years of my life that I really put so much together and saw the patterns, and realized that all these tiny things and all led to these big things in my life that were at one point I thought completely separate. but they weren't. So absolutely, there are no coincidences in life. You're never going to be able to convince me that there are, because there are people who that do. It's never going to work because there aren't any. So
No. And there's no coincidences, but you need to pay attention.
yes, that's the whole point. Yep, pay attention. There's patterns. You'll catch them if you pay attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
So, what is one thing you changed your mind about?
Ooh, that's a good one. And I actually don't. Let me think. What is one thing that I changed my mind about? Oh, karma. Karma. I used to be like everybody else. I thought karma was punishment. I thought karma was black and white. I love what, Oh, karma's a B word, but I'm worse type thing. No, I don't believe in karma anymore as to what is out there and what society kind of tells you karma is. I also realized what the ego truly was when I was learning that karma is about intentions, and that is why, hey, sometimes really people who really hurt you, they don't get their karma because they hurt you out of good intentions in their brain, even though it doesn't seem it. Situations like that happen all the time. People get it twisted. But other than that, I also realized exactly what the ego was over the last 3 to 4 years. And Carl Jung is one of my favorite psychiatrists. I've talked about it many times on the podcast before. I'm reading Red Book now. I'm very confused by it, but I'm loving it. And it was through him that I learned exactly what the ego was. It is not just the thing that builds our confidence. It is absolutely the thing that protects us. And we've talked this about the podcast, and we've talked about how important the ego is, but but sometimes how detrimental it is if all we do is listen to it. And a lot of people out there, they do not understand what the ego is. I see it on TikTok, I see it on YouTube, and I really just want to jump in there and be like, this, you have no idea what you're talking. This is not the ego. This is the ego, right? But it's not their fault either, because society makes us believe that ego is something that it isn't. It's just a small part. It's a fraction of what the ego is. That's it. That's it.
Absolutely. I absolutely believe that.
So I came across something that I thought was interesting. When it came to how spirituality is involved and like things that people use that we no longer use, yada, yada, all that great stuff. And I found, and this is a big one, that over the last 30, 40 years, which actually, to be honest, did surprise me because of Hollywood. I thought that, anyway, long story short, I read that over the last 30, 40 years, sales for spirit boards, Ouija boards, for those of you, have dropped, which I thought was quite interesting because we had the Conjurings, the Insidiouses. I don't know whether they actually had spirit boards in them. I don't think so. Insidious did. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But horror movies.
The one with the head that spun.
Exorcist?
Yeah, that's what started
Oh,
it.
yeah. Yeah. So, but the sales have dropped. And I see them every time I go to like a Walmart and stuff. They got Ouija boards on there. So I see them, right? Hasbro still sells them and whatnot. But the sales have dropped. And I thought that was very, very interesting. And then I realized I've had many mediumship readings. I've had, not any of them have ever used a spirit board. And I know that back in the day when they were created, they did use that as a tool. But I do think that the way that society depicted that and how they misrepresented it, let's just put it that way, has had a lot of spiritual people stray away from using spirit boards because there's such not that there's bad energy about them. It's not that they bring in demons.
You don't.
Please. A lot of them don't use it, and I think that from what I read, it is because there's a bad staple to them now, and they also don't need them anymore like they were told to. You don't need a Ouija board or a spirit board to connect to a loved one. So it did make sense to me when I read that, but surprised me about the fact that it dropped. So I looked into it, and one of the biggest reasons that the sales of Ouija boards have dropped is because they call it the fear factor. Even though they've been used in these horror movies, people are terrified of them and they won't buy them. They won't buy them because they do see them as a gateway to a demon, or poltergeist or whatever you get
Do
from
you
them.
know that prior to 1973, when the Exorcist movie was released, nobody had a problem with the spirit boards? It was that
Zero.
movie that started it, made it into be something evil, and
Hmm.
really dug in. And I think that was probably around the time when people were kind of pushing with um, the changes, like the 60s, the changes and
Yes.
like religion and, free thinking and like the hippie area, Woodstock. We had all that kind of stuff going on. So people were trying to
Hmm.
find their way. And with this movie, um, it demonized, literally demonized the
It
Ouija
did.
board.
It did. Hmm.
And
Yeah.
other than that, it's a spirit board, and it's really just physical mediumship. And there are things we do. We do table tipping. Um, you know, we
Can you explain that to the people who don't know or
so
who are new?
table tipping is when you have a few people around, two or more people, with a table. I think you can do it by yourself, but I have not tried that myself. But you get it, and you just lightly put your hands on the board. You're not really touching it, but you're touching it very lightly, and the board will move with questions, or not. Sorry, the table will move. It can go side to side. You kind of set the rules, I guess, when you do it. Like, okay, show us what yes
Right.
is, show us what no is, and then you can ask it questions. And it is quite
Yeah.
freaky if you're not prepared for it. I know I've had a few people get really scared. And I think that's where, you know, it just buys into like the Ouija board, things like this. It's unknown, so it's scary, right?
Yeah.
And if somebody, you'd probably would be ripped out of your house or whatever, locked up if you had a bunch of people over and you started doing that, and they were had some super strong beliefs. You'd probably get, well, back in the day, you probably would have been burned at the stake, right? So,
I was gonna say, burn at the stake or locked away and key lost
but
forever.
it's so great. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's just like this
No.
is physical mediumship. And if you have the opportunity, look into this. Like, there's the trumpets, and there's so many things that people try to debunk it or have done things. There's different trance mediums who have
Mm.
done, physical mediumship, things like that, and a lot of them are through the UK. There's a few documentaries that they're in, and it's really, really neat. It could take a long time to get some of these things to work, but you have to be dedicated and believe, because this is
You
very
know what's
precious.
It's so interesting that you brought up England and the UK because the last couple shorts I'm doing, um, the experiences were all from the majority of them came from the UK.
Well, there is Arthur Findlay
It's
College.
very interesting.
So
Hmm.
it is basically where people go to practice
Yep,
different spiritual, metaphysical modalities.
it's very famous. It's very famous.
And it's been having a little bit of issues
Out
lately.
controversy.
Yeah, controversy. That's perfect.
But you know what? Before anyone poo-poos it, any type of organization like that has controversies. For God's sakes, regular universities and colleges have controversies. So, just saying,
And,
don't poo-poo it
and
just
it's
because.
not because what they do is wrong. It's because you just
Hmm.
get certain people in power who don't, into
That's
different
exactly it.
positions,
Yeah.
who don't agree or who have an agenda, not necessarily a good agenda, and maybe misunderstood agenda, and it can just, it's ego, right? And they're getting their egos in the way. And there you go, right? You start following that. So
Yep.
I've taken courses online through it. I have,
I was just gonna ask if they still do online
they
courses.
do, they do. They usually have like little times. Like it's amazing
Okay.
since COVID, right? So they have like they'll have like online start week or
Mm-hmm.
whatever,
Okay.
and then you can do it, or they'll have weekends where they have different things. It's just the only
All right.
problem is trying to sync up something that works with us in our time zone.
Okay.
It'll be like 3 o'clock in the morning here, and they're having something there. They're doing something there, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I want to do that, but I'm not getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. But I just take that as, okay, well, I'll find something that works. And so, like that's it's an amazing way to go do this. And I really think that if you're going to have a very strong belief on any type of modality, whether it's mediumship, tarot, or whatever, study it first and work with it first before you start saying that it's bad, or good, I guess.
There's another thing. What is it called? Spirit photography. That was another tool that a lot of people use, and they stopped using it when there were so many instances of, what is it called when one photo, double exposure? Is that
Yeah,
what I'm?
yeah.
Yeah, is that what it? Okay.
Overexposure, double
Oh
exposure.
yeah, yeah. Where two photos blend into one, and it looks like there's a spirit there. And that was one of the reasons they stopped using it. But at the very beginning, it was one of the main thing when people started to take photos. They used that quite a lot to try to prove that spirits were around them all the time. And some pictures have been characterized as legitimate with no explanation as to what this is that they're looking at in the photo, and some have been characterized as double exposure, overexposure, and fraudulent. But spirit photography, that is another thing that I read, is completely basically dissolved. It's dissolved, which makes sense because we live in the age of AI. How, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you know? How do you know? It's very difficult, I think, for any. I don't know if they're called this, so apologies to any of you listening if you are ghost hunters. I don't know what ghost investigators. I don't know
Paranormal
what
investigators.
paranormal investigators say, and I watch these shows too. That's shameful.
Like ghost hunters, they do
I
that too.
Yeah, and I feel bad because that is something that they used to use and that they do try to use, and now they are hit with all these obstacles, and disbelief, because it's so easy to replicate it. But I thought that that's very true. Spirit photography is another thing that it's not used anymore,
No.
which I understand why. But that was another one I thought. And then I came across this one, which I like because, to be honest, I do it, but I never actually knew that it was a form of spiritualism in this sense. Automatic writing, that mediums and I do that just to connect with my consciousness, and I've been doing it for years, and I love it, and I really wish more people would do it, and I actually preach about it sometimes on my lives or to clients. So please look into automatic writing, because the things that come out would astound you. And even my therapist, she's the one who pointed me to it, at the very beginning of our journey, as she calls it, and I love it. But I had no idea that that was something that mediums used until I did some of the stories are incredible, how they use that to connect to beings on the other side.
Oh, I know there's been times where I've sat and meditated, or we call it sitting in the power, sat in the power, and then wrote. And I,
Like you just felt the need to kind of write, or you just
well,
like
I would do it
an
because I was
automatic.
gonna connect and just write.
Okay, okay.
And it is an exercise that we do sometimes in circle. Is we'll say, okay, sit in there, and maybe if you have questions, you can ask questions, and then when you're done, you write, right? And then this is something that you can do, and then date it, so you can always, you can always and look and see how you've grown. But there's been times where I've written it, and it's like, holy crap, I was smart that day. Like, what was
See,
going on,
see?
right? Like,
Oh, love it.
holy.
I love it.
Yeah, and then you reading it going, oh my gosh, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just coming out. You might think you're just writing, uh, but
It's not.
when
It's it's
there
amazing.
can be some really good answers. So especially
Yeah.
if you're trying to talk to maybe a loved one, you're like, okay, well, they never talk to me or whatever.
Oh,
Uh, if you struggle with that, that would be a really good way to try to communicate with them. Is you can sit in the
yeah.
power, you can kind of say, hey, I'd like to talk to whoever, and then just get, when you're done, just get out pen and paper, and maybe while you're sitting in the power, ask a couple of questions, and then just start writing. And you know your loved one can communicate with you that way.
I think that's a good tip. I like that because I would have never thought about it. I would have never thought about using automatic writing in that sense because I use it for my subconscious, and any shadow work or whatever people call it these days. But when I read about how you can connect to even your spirit guide with it, like it actually made me want to try it. So it's on my list to try sometime this week. Completely different than what I usually do, obviously. But like, I can't believe I never knew that. I'm still in awe that that was one of the things. And it came up with crystal balls, which, listen, I like because they're pretty. Okay? And I think they're cool. And I find they don't work. Or maybe they do work. I don't know. I've never experienced one in front of me to like look in. But that's another thing that has diminished. But something that was dead for so long, for their like that I read like dead like for 60 plus years, is those rods.
Oh, dowsing rods.
And now everybody's using them.
Mhm.
Everyone's using them to connect. But 60 years ago, they just disappeared because they weren't used when they were first created. It was to find
Yeah.
water, right?
Yeah.
Or it was,
Water,
yeah.
different things.
And
Yeah.
yeah. And then people realized that, hold on, this thing is picking up energy when I am standing nowhere near water and I'm standing nowhere near where it should be picking up energy. And it's brought back into, and I like that because I don't have a parent. I don't really want to use it myself, but I find it very interesting that something that completely vanished and disappeared is all of a sudden almost mainstream again in the spirituality environment, industry, whatever you want to call it. I see them everywhere. Everywhere.
Well, there's the dowsing rods, the pendulums. You can
Yes.
actually use your body like a pendulum.
Yep.
And
Sway method or
yep,
whatever.
yep. And you, the one thing to know with all of these is they're just a tool.
Yes.
So, Nikki might say, okay, I don't see much out of a crystal ball, but I can do a crystal ball and I don't see stuff necessarily, but stuff comes to me. And so these are just tools to help. Whether or not they do anything to actually do it is another thing, or is it just something that aids you in being helping you to bring out how you work or how you can work,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And that's very important because that goes with what I was saying earlier. If certain things in your spirituality journey don't resonate, meditation, prayer, yoga, whatever. Even if like Kim said, inanimate objects don't work. Like for me, I have tons of pendulums. I cannot. They're put away though because I don't resonate with them. I use them and I've used to use them quite a lot, but I don't. They don't. My deck is all that I need. A deck is all that I need. So I don't use pendulums. I think that's one of the only tools that people always ask me if I can do a pendulum reading, and I don't work with them. I think that's the only one though, the only tool that I don't work with in a sense,
Yeah.
and a Ouija board because I'm scared.
See, I'm not.
I'm a horror movie buff, so I'm you know
But
I know.
yeah, I'm not scared of any of that stuff. Uh, I guess just because I'm so open and I don't believe I know get at me, but I don't subscribe to the
I
negative
like that. Subscribe.
spirits. I don't
Let them
believe in
in,
them.
kind of like
Yeah, like I
yeah,
don't work
yeah.
with them. I don't give them attention. So I'll do all this stuff, but I know that only good will come to me.
Yeah. Actually, that's important that you just said that because I feel like a lot of people who, if you're trying to connect and you're trying to, whether it's with a spirit board or a pendulum or what have you, make sure that you don't, because there's people that do try to invite
Hmm.
really low vibrational, but don't do it. Why would you do that? Don't do
No.
that. Like, don't, it's not going to be like what you see in the movies. There's no conjuring here.
And
Okay.
nobody's
That's not
coming to
going to
save
happen.
you if you do a bunch of stuff. Like,
Yeah, I mean, we all know who the Warrens were, and maybe one day we'll talk about them, maybe we won't, but it's not like The Conjuring. When you invite those kind of lower energies in, they don't poltergeist your house. Very rare, but they do mess with you. They do bring you down. Like there are effects of it. So don't do what they do in movies. Don't do that. It's not fun in games. And you know, the people around you will be quite annoyed. Quite annoyed.
Yeah.
Because that's what I did when my sister made me a beautiful Ouija board. And this is in a podcast episode, I think the Halloween one, so go back and listen to it. But I did that. I played with a Ouija board and saying play, and we did pull something through. And I wanted it to be something creepy. And it wasn't creepy, but it was a very sad type of spirit. And my mom was very upset at me forever. And she got rid of the Ouija board. So don't do that.
No.
Don't do that.
But it doesn't matter what it is. You know, whatever you do, whether it's a inanimate object that you're making to help, or if it's just, you know, meditation or whatever, please do it with the highest good. Do it with high vibrations. Do it with love. And, you know,
And excitement.
yeah,
It helps.
and don't go in with fear, because as soon as you start going fear is going to dig in, and it's not going to be good.
No, it messes with you. It messes with you. Because I feel I could completely use a spirit board and be fine if I just didn't got over what I did when I was 16 and what I see in the horror movies. It was just the stories in the Halloween episode. I might tell it on a short again, but it's not dramatic, guys. It's not dramatic at all. But it definitely did bring in, you know, very low vibrational energies, and it was just I never after that would do it again. But like Kim says, they're tools. They're tools. And a lot of it is it'll work if you believe it'll work
And you just need
when
to
it comes to tools.
respect.
Yeah. And protect yourself. However you do protection. That's another thing that I've learned and I've let go of, because when I started, people used to tell me all the time, you need to imagine the white light. You need to cleanse. You cleanse by sage, by salt, by blah blah blah, all these things, as if there is steps you have to do to protect yourself when you start to meditate or when you know go into a mediumship reading, and they made it seem so rigid. Sometimes the simplest things work the best for protection. Sometimes just salt, sometimes just sage, sometimes just envisioning that white light. So when I got into the journey, there was a lot of that. People were telling me, you've got to do this, this, and this, and this. And I was like, oh my God. And I would do it. I would do it when I was 29, 28. I would do it. I would make sure I have all the salt, the right salt, because there's always a right salt. No. Sage, a certain kind of sage, doesn't matter either. All these rules.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I learned is that those were poo-poo. You don't need them all.
Yeah.
You don't need them all.
No. And just respect.
Yes.
Respect any ideologies that you're using. So if you're kind of doing something that might be more of the indigenous people, or something that might be more like the Romanian faith, or, you know, just all those different things, respect them as respect these things.
Always be grateful.
You know,
Be grateful for it.
don't
Yeah.
don't just mess with stuff. Don't try to be bad.
No.
You know,
No,
don't try to
there's-
get somebody back. Don't try to, you know, like get some evil concoction and put pins in people. You know, that's only gonna harm you, because that is going into personal responsibility for every thought, word, and action.
Exactly.
And if you're going to harm somebody,
Exactly.
you're opening up the door to be harmed yourself.
Yeah. That's intention right there. That's it. That's how your karma basically works. That's it. Okay, so don't do that. But I think Kim's right. Like if you're using, you know, you're using sage, but you're not genuine. Be grateful that you have it. Be thankful for it. And respect is a big thing. It's a very big thing. Which I think sometimes lacks in the spiritual community, especially on the social media side of the spiritual community. I see quite a lot of a lack of respect when it comes to that section. And I also starting to see a lot of lack of respect in the law of assumption community, which is really starting to bother me as well. But that's a story for a different time. So just be very respectful. Be very respectful, and handle everything with grace.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's
Ready?
it's really hard to watch people who work in these different areas, modalities, or whatever you want to call it. And they fight and they, pick each other apart and they say, oh, they're awful. And,
Yeah, why?
you know,
Like what?
like even I was talking to a lady just yesterday and she does paint nights or whatever, right? Not spiritual, but, this is what she did. And, you know, she saw somebody asking about her paint nights, and somebody else who also does paint nights was going, oh yeah,
Oh
you
no.
gotta just lose your money. She never, she doesn't reply. She never does this and this. And it's like, huh? Because I know that
Two sides
lady
to
and
every
none of that's
story.
true. So this other person is just trying to get people for them.
Yeah, yeah. That's why you got to be careful,
Yeah.
right? Discernment is very, very important.
Hmm.
I have a question,
Okay.
and this actually came from my friend because I told her we were doing this episode today.
Okay.
So I was like, I need a question, and I wanted to, and she's like, don't you have your list of questions? And I was like, I do, but I don't have one that matches with this episode. And she's like, it doesn't need to match. And I was like, but I want it to match. So anyway, she said, all right, ask him, or this is a question. She's like, you guys answer this. If you had to leave our listeners with one spiritual belief that's become stronger over the years for you, what would it be? That was a good question, by the way. What would you leave them?
I think going back to what has become stronger, trust in spirit, and
Surrender.
yeah, just however, know that it's going to work out for your best possible, your highest good. Uh, and just because it's bad or it seems bad at the moment, it might not be.
Yeah.
It might be
Yeah,
what
that's it.
needs to happen to
Good one.
get you to a different place.
Yeah. I like that one because that is something that that so many people actually struggle with in life is to frickin' surrender. Know and trust and let it go. Like the vice grip we have to have on certain things, especially with spirituality, is insane. Is insane. So I like that as your answer. My answer was I didn't have an answer. And I told her I might not, if I don't have an answer by the time that I say the question, I'm not answering.
You have
And it's
one
just
now?
going to be Kim. I have one now because but we were here, discussing. If I could leave someone with any, you know what it would be? It would be read. Read, learn, and research. Don't just go blindly towards the first thing that you see because even in spirituality, you will get stuck. And if I hadn't read or educated myself, I wouldn't be, I'm telling you right now, as experienced as I was or as knowledgeable as I was. And there's so much power in researching and learning about spirituality, any form of spirituality. You don't even have to agree with what you're reading. There was many that I didn't agree with. There was many. I didn't agree with a lot of, ideas about spirit or God or, angels. And I found a different path. But read and learn and educate yourself because I'm telling you, with everything, there'll be details that will come with you throughout your journey that you will be able to use, that will resonate. But if you don't research and you don't learn, you're going to be stuck at one level. And there's a lot of people stuck at that one level in spirituality, especially online. I see it every day. My way or the highway.
Yeah. Oh, it's
No.
brutal. And that's when the fights get in.
That's
I
right.
have to
That's
say,
right.
too, I want people to know that just because I'm a medium doesn't mean or a psychic doesn't mean every time I come up and talk to you, I'm seeing all your dead people and I'm getting into your head. I could care less, really. Because
Yeah.
I got my own stuff to deal with. I don't need to be talking to your dead people
Yeah.
unless you want me to. And so just, you can have a conversation with me. I'm not sitting there. I'm not going to psychoanalyze or try to see what's going in there. It's none of my business. That's your life.
I think
Your job, not mine.
I think people don't understand the amount of energy it takes at times to do that. So, and I think we talked about this one episode. You're not walking around and seeing spirits attached to everyone
No,
like they show you in the
no.
movies. It's like,
That's
I mean, she
movie.
probably could, but Yeah. So, but a lot of people assume that. A lot of people hear you're a medium, a psychic, and all of a sudden you can see all the ghosts surrounding them, and all the spirits, and everybody wants to talk to them, and everybody wants to know what this person has to say. You're turned off. It's not your hours.
Yeah.
It's not your business
Yeah.
hours.
There's
Right? Yeah.
no, just so many people believe, and even the fact that I'm a minister, right? Like, doesn't change who I am. Uh, uh, you probably met me and I didn't tell you, I'd have no clue that I was a minister. So,
Yeah.
you know,
100%. Yeah.
you know, uh,
Absolutely.
so just because somebody has a title, don't pigeonhole them.
That's a good one. It's very true.
'Cause we're all different.
Very true. Very true.
Spirit calls on different people for different things.
Absolutely.
Like,
Wow, this was a good episode. I liked it.
yeah, yeah.
I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys liked it, and comment, throw down anything below. What have you guys used in the past that no longer resonates with you, or what never resonated with you, or what do you love using? What do you love doing on a day-to-day basis? Let us know, because it might be something that Kim and I have never even thought of ourselves. Happens every day.
Yeah, like what has gotten stronger for you? What and how have you changed? And just think about it because it's really
Yeah.
beautiful when you get to a point and you kind of think and have that question, what has changed? And when you see the leaps and bounds that you have done and where you would have done in certain periods of time that you would have, you wouldn't have done before, like, because now, you can be so much you can learn to be at peace. You can learn to just give it up instead of sitting there and worrying and worrying and worrying and oh my gosh, and you driving yourself crazy.
You just hand it over. Hand it over. And oftentimes, just before we sign off, oftentimes when you do hand it over and you let go and you trust, as Kim says, and you surrender, it ends up working out 10 times better than you thought.
Yeah.
Almost always. I cannot tell you how many times I've held on to something and with a vice grip and then just been like, F it, I'm letting it go. And then it turns out even better than I wanted a few days later or a week later. And then I feel foolish.
Yep.
And I'm actually glad that I feel foolish and sheepish after that, because that's when I realized that was my ego. That was my ego trying to take control when it should have just been quiet and in the back seat. So sometimes we do have to put that faith and trust out there. Not saying we have to do it with everything, but just have that trust.
Yeah.
Okay? You have to have that trust.
And not just trust, believe. Believe.
Yeah.
To me, it's a little different.
But technically, they are two different things. That we can talk about another episode, because there's so many people that don't know that.
Oh, okay.
They don't know. Well, no, I trust. No, you don't. No, you're confusing what trust and belief is. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Because it is very vastly different in spirituality.
Like,
Anyway,
do you trust your
that's-
partner's gonna cheat on you, or do you believe your partner's gonna cheat on you? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they're different.
Yeah, it usually stops people in the tracks when you start explaining the difference. Actually, that happened yesterday. I had a client, and I had to explain the difference to her, and you could see like her face drop in the live. She listens to the podcast, so she doesn't care that I mentioned her, and she's like, "Oh my God, I never thought about it that way." And I was like, "Yeah, because you're not taught on social media to think about it that way." Anyway, that'll be a good episode.
Yes.
I think that'll be a very good episode. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We really appreciate it. And everyone that's subscribed, we're going to talk about it at the beginning of every episode, at the end of every episode, because we want to.
We need more.
Thank
We
you.
need more.
Yeah. Thank you. Share the podcast, share the shorts. I mean, if the podcast isn't your thing, but you love our shorts, then awesome. Subscribe, because we're going to have the shorts keep coming, right? Vice versa. If you're like, man, on the shorts and you just want to stick to our podcast, fantastic. Make sure you're subscribed so you know when our podcasts come out, which is every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Mountain Time, right? That's what it is. Yeah. Yeah. So just subscribe and share it. Spread the word, please.
Share the love of us.
Yeah. Preach it. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. And we will see you next week for the 48th episode. Yeah. 2 away from the 50th, which we're going to plan something really big for the 50th.
I have an
We just
idea.
have to. You do? Oh, thank God. Because I don't.
I do. I do.
Yay. Good. Okay, everyone, have a phenomenal week, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.